Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in another part of the world. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a very beautiful Saturday morning. As usual, this is that time where we sit down, relax. I mean, the street is quiet, so definitely you must be at home in front of your TV to catch us on so that we can get to hear from you on what is happening or what has happened all through the week. So this is that fun time where we bring you a lot of things bothering our society, where we get to open the phone line to hear from you. And also, we tend to bring you entertainment stories that has been trending all through the week. But in commemoration with, of course, the 2023 16 days of activism of end gender-based violence, we have, of course, come as it is this year, as it is every year rather. There is about 16 days where there is this activism of end gender-based violence on women and girls. So as the curtain, of course, draws closer, because tomorrow would be the 10th of December rather, and that is when we celebrate the Human Rights Day, and that would be the ending of that 16 days of activism against the GBV. So here on Trust Television, of course, we're here to commiserate with the victims of the GBV. We also pushing on the fact that they need to be, a punishment for the perpetrators, and we are definitely saying that you should end violence against the women. Good morning, Fatih.
Good morning, Sumaya. I can see that you are actually really into this.
Indeed.
I was just seeing this and I was like, okay.
Of course, one thing that Trust Television always stands for is for humanity. Our stories is always pushing on what the world is going through, how to find possible solutions for that. So, of course, we are here on this. I mean, we've seen a lot of different stakeholders coming out to push for this. So we've seen civil societies, NGOs pushing for this. This is something that has been bugging us in our society. A lot of people, have been pushing for execution, for prosecution of the perpetrators of this act, because the numbers keeps increasing and it's alarming. So in commemoration, of course, for the end of the 16 days activism on GBV, we will later be having an activist who would shed more light on the importance of teaching our children how to protect themselves, teaching our children that they are the victim and not let the society push them into thinking that they are the cause of what happened to them, and also teaching the boy child how to respect the opposite sex, and also know when no is no. So, of course, yes, with that, we have interesting lineup for you today. Like I said, we'll be bringing you entertainment stories on what's really happening. So please just stick around. We'll come back after the break, and we'll start by taking a look at what is happening in the front pages of the national dailies this morning. Stay with us.
What NAFDAC is doing is making sure we are safeguarding the health of the nation.
80 million people have been accounted for that have glaucoma worldwide.
The Nutrition Society of Nigeria is laying emphasis on exclusive breastfeeding of our babies.
Incidence of kidney disease in children has also been rising, with an estimated 1 in 10 Nigerian children affected.
And that sometimes those products contain things that could harm you more than you would expect. So you would have long-term damage which could affect your health over time.
Intermittent fasting indeed is beneficial.
Where you find that
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Welcome back to Daybreak Extra on Trust Television. And right now we'll start by taking a look at the Daily Trust newspaper's front page. There's a lot of stories happening this morning. The major story here says, inside military 16 airstrike errors on citizens in 9 years. Riders there says over 400 fell victims. Pay compensation to recent victims and revisit other cases. That's according to the ACF and experts. Also, we have children, women among casualties. Justice must be served for victims of Kaduna bombing. That's according to Sultan Saad Abubakar. Now, all the stories, you'll find it on pages 4 and 35 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Fatima, there's a lot of things happening about this. I mean, this is what has been trending all through this week. Started from Sunday evening until Monday, where the news was everywhere about the situation. And people are pushing for compensation, which definitely the military and the federal government would do. They have to, yes. But then there is always that push also from people saying that it wasn't a mistake. So definitely somebody needs to pay for that kind of mistake. It's too big for
I've heard so many scholars and, many people talking about it all over social media, saying they have to be compensated. The families have to be compensated and well taken care of, and a whole lot of compensation, not just just minor or little monetary. Yes, so I actually feel that needs to be done, for the sake of the lives of the people that were taken unexpectedly and all that. So yeah, definitely.
Let's not forget, the village is almost destroyed.
Yes,
I mean this thing killed people, so definitely houses is one of the things that
the perpetrators have to be caught and justice have to be served.
Yes. Who gave that? I mean, that's why people were pushing that the military shouldn't be the one in charge of that investigation, even though they'll do their internal one. But the federal government needs to take the bull by its horn and do their own investigation. Because who in the first place gave that order? Yes. No, not even the order. They said they got intelligence, from someone. So who gave them the intelligence that these people, whom everyone keeps saying that they always come unannounced, and then you're saying that you found out that they were going to attack, and then it turns out that it was the villagers. I mean, the mistake was just too much. Big. Just too big. It cost lots of life, and when you see the mass burial that was done on these people, it's something that would definitely touch your heart.
Definitely, you can't even stand the picture of the
graphics of the kids in the hospital.
Definitely. So it's a whole lot, and our heart goes out to the families of the people that lost their loved ones.
Indeed. All right, below there we have, of course, the numbers of what Daily Trust research came out with about the number of people killed in the military strike in 9 years. I mean, the type of attack, we have the jet and the drone, and all this is done. If you want to see every details of how many people were killed on what year and month, then you can, of course, pick a copy of the Daily Trust newspaper. Below these statistics here, it says CBN warns of fake naira notes in circulation. You find this on page 7. There was that fear before about that fake circulation, and that was when the new naira notes came in, when someone even said it looks wash off. So them coming back again to say it's I mean, most times is when there is rigidness, when there is lack of circulation, that's when things like this keep happening, because people are looking for cash everywhere.
Yeah. And it's seasonal, it's season moments, like Indeed. Festivities are...
Everyone wants to hold
cash, people want to travel, some people want to buy food items, stock their houses because of the festivities and what have you. So yeah, cash is really important. In fact, every day is important.
It is important.
There's no life without money.
Exactly. So and let's not forget, Fatima, earlier, I think the CBN late last month came out also to say that we need to be careful with POS transactions, because they will switch your ATM cards and all that. So now people don't trust people with the transfers.
At the time, they were not even saying they will switch. They actually were scaring us that they can actually save your details and then you could just see withdrawals. Well, actually, there were people that that actually complained. They went to withdraw from an POS, you know, and they kept seeing alerts, debit alerts, and you'll be wondering
and
how
they're
that
still
happens.
holding their card.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot that needs to be explained, you know, because when it started newly, we didn't really understand what it's all about. So it's now that people are actually getting to understand how POS works and what you need to be doing to be careful so you don't lose your money.
Indeed. Really sad one there. So right now people want cash, and then the cash is they are fixed in circulation. So please just take care and make sure you pay attention to that. All right. So beside that, we have impacts of palliatives elusive despite the federal government's 5 billion naira to states. It says about 10 kg for households in Ogun converted to Christmas gifts in Anambra. Okay. Others used funds to settle WAEC and NECO fees. Part of the palliative used for mass wedding in Kano. Policy faulty. Government must adopt inclusive approach. That's according to experts. Now, you find this on page 5 and 6. This is something that people have been talking about the division of palliative, which has always been confusing because one state is using it to pay school fees for WAEC and NECO, and others are using it to give a mass wedding. That's in Kano, and in Ogun it was given to them as a Christmas gift. I mean, it's now making, and let's not forget Katsina State are using it to recruit more vigilantes in order to help in insecurity. So it's like every
state is engaging in different
in something that would help. Okay, so say Katsina, it's involving everybody. I mean, security is something that affects everyone's life. But then experts are saying that it's a faulty policy because not everyone would benefit from that palliative when it comes to other states. I mean, we're talking about the Christmas gifts that you're giving. How can everybody be able to get it?
Well,
even if people are rich, everybody needs the money.
So but at the end of the day, no matter, except they're going to give everybody, like, I'm serious, stop laughing. Okay. Except they are going to give everybody, the whole Nigeria, for example. If not, there's definitely going to be a whole lot of people missing out on whenever any, relief gifts, grants or palliatives comes. It's not everyone that will get it.
Well, that's really sad. I mean, so a lot of people are suffering from this. So, I mean,
except they keep records, if there is a record that, okay, this palliative went to this so number of people, their names, their house numbers are taken. Maybe when another one comes out, you cross-check. Yes, and then you continue from where the other people didn't get. And then maybe that way, it can reach out to other people that have never got, because there are a whole lot of people that have never gotten palliative.
But this actually pulls back to what Nigerians are saying, that there is no need of this palliative. Why not just find a way, pull that increase a lot of money, exactly, in maybe increasing salary or even taking care of making sure that the refineries start working. That way everybody would benefit from it. Yes,
definitely.
It would cushion the effects of what is happening. Yeah. Anyways, a sad situation there. We have my stepchild or my stepchildren prevents me from enjoying my husband. A woman tells the court. You find this on page 37. Really sad, family situation right there. All right, below the headlines, we have Dangote Refinery begins processing of 1 million barrels of crude oil. You find this on page 7. And yesterday morning, our newspaper reviewer Nuruddin Abdullah made mention of the fact that Dangote owes Nigeria nothing, so we should not be expecting that the fuel pump price would reduce just because he is a refinery. Yes, he is a businessman after all.
Yeah, because I feel it's personal, right?
Yes.
But then I feel at the same time maybe they are stakeholders also, because no matter how, except he took care of it alone, but I feel like, in my own thinking, that maybe the government has a share in it, and then there are other stakeholders, that have contributed to, just also they can benefit from it. So at the end of the day,
he just has to give. Hold on, everybody needs to give back to the society. So Dangote, we are holding you accountable. But Dangote has been
giving back to the society.
He should
to
do
an
it
extent.
in terms of the pump. All right, so beside that, we have CITN honors a Daily Trust with the Best Print Media Award. You find this on page 7. That's a congratulations for the Media Trust Group family. It's been a win-win situation for us all through this week. Beside that, the entertainment, we have How I Joined Kannywood. That's according to the actress Raihan Kamshi. You find it on page 16. Now, these are some of the stories on the Daily Trust newspaper today.
Okay, so let's quickly move to The Nation Saturday this morning. Cash crunch. CBN raises the alarm over counterfeit banknotes. Ahead of Christmas withdrawals limits sparks public frustration. You can find that story on page 4. And 3.4 billion debt appeal court orders Makinde to pay XLG, local government chiefs. Slams 50 million fine on Oyo government and others. You can find that story on page 5. Controversy as commissioner alleges forgery of Akiridelu's signature. You can find that story on page 6. Maya, now there's a whole lot happening right here, even though there are no much stories on the front page of the nations. But then, you know, we just spoke about cash crunch because it's festivity time. Whenever there is a festive moment, you know, season coming up, there's always going to be something lacking, you know, something, commodities are high, cash is missing, and what have you. And then now he's saying that there are going to be fake notes like you just mentioned. So I think that it's something that we need. There's always, that has always been happening. I'm wondering how Nigerians come up with, you know, fake notes.
I wonder,
and it looks so real.
Of course.
But then they'll have to tell you. You remember when the 1,000 naira came out, they were telling us some specific things to look out for to make it that you know the real one and the fake one. But Nigerians are very smart at the end of the day. So yeah, that's just about it for The Nation this morning.
All right, let's move on to more stories. We'll take a look at the Punch newspaper this morning. The major story here says that families face bleak Yuletide over the rising food prices and, of course, the fares and others. I mean, it's a lot of saddest things happening when it comes to the Yuletide season. It should be all for festivities. The writers there said food prices tripled and traders expect further rise, fear low patronage. Many cancel, adjust travel plans for Christmas as transport fares keep rising. Now, what people are forgetting is that the moment you keep increasing your products and you know, and your fares, then people will not patronize you. I mean, there is that fear that this is this Christmas that a lot of people will not be going back home, and it's because of the cost of living. You know, talking about the transport, the food. I well know how we all wish to have dirty December, but it's not looking that way for many. A really sad one. There you find this on page 4 of the newspaper, where 50 ladies showed interest in me after searching for love online. That's according to polio survivor. Lagos needs 7 trillion naira for infrastructure, says Sanwo-Olu. You find this on page 9. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of demands and money. But then the controversy behind the billions of naira on fan and other things has been quieted, you know, in Lagos. So right now, when the governments are coming out to say, okay, we need about 7 trillion naira, the people cannot even relate to it, to say that, okay, you people have been spending money on other things. So if you knew that we needed this, why not stock that money to do something else with it? All right, so we have blighted by deadly superstition. Children accused of witchcraft suffer shame and abandoned by families. You find this on page 34 and 35. Fatima, you remember the time where we spoke about witchcraft and how people are being humiliated, shamed, you know, even they get jungle beaten, you know, because of that kind of narrative saying that someone is witch or something, where
without even you know,
without proof.
Yes, without proof that, okay, this person, even though, you know, some of the videos, you remember back then when we showed some of the videos like Kaduna, the Adamawa, I think, and some cases that we have seen on social media actually proves to be like it's actually real, because you could see the victim and then you could see the person they're accusing of being the witch.
And sometimes the person is pushed to confess, even though
to say that, oh yeah, I did. Because I watched one video of a lady, you know, in the hospital say, oh yeah, I bewitched my friend because we had a fight, and they were in a group where they were doing this contributions with the Adashi thing. And then she was actually angry, or she was, you know, I don't know if it is envy, I would say, because for some people it actually starts from there.
Of course, I mean, witchcraft starts from there. But then when we had the conversation, a lot of people didn't even believe it. Where I remember a story that happened in Cross River where a woman had to abandon her 2-year-old a baby because her pastor told her that that baby is a wizard. That's what it's called. And then she abandoned her child. But then one of these international NGOs picked that baby, and after 5 years she was able to see her child again, or 7 years.
Oh, are you talking about the story of a couple of years ago, that baby that was dumped?
Indeed.
On the baby boy?
It was a baby boy.
Yeah, he was accused of being a wizard at that young age. I mean,
now
the story.
we're in front page of the Punch newspaper right now. Look at how little these babies are.
Yeah.
And they're saying that they're abandoning them because they're witches and all that. Honestly, we need to just make
a whole lot of things are
change
still happening in this country, even though it's not known to a lot of people, because the stories are not going around. Even there are still people that still believe twins are a curse.
I thought we were past that.
They have not. There are actually places that still believe. I couldn't believe it when I actually did a report on it early this year.
Interesting.
That's early this year. Yeah.
Situation,
so it's actually really sad, that it's children like this,
are
very young,
suffering
and going through all this trauma that they don't even know what it is actually.
A really sad one.
It's a sad one.
All right, from that we have Ondo Commissioner writes, Ayedatiwa says Akeredolu's signature was forged. I mean, there's still drama happening in Ondo back to back. We hope that they resolve this. It's all about the citizens and not the personalities. Below the headmaster, it says, it looked like end of the world had come. That's according to Kaduna bombing survivors. I mean, those people, the trauma, I cannot even begin to guess, how these people felt. You find this on page 8. If you want to get in the mind of these people that survived that horrible situation, then of course you can pick a copy of the Punch newspaper. Ogun Finance Director, wife ended 3-day fast day and after he was killed. That's according to brother. You find this on page 2. On the entertainment segment, it says entertainers with failed marriages still admired by many. Okay, this caption says a lot. So why shouldn't they be admired? I mean, just because you have failed marriage doesn't mean it's the end of the world. We have Tiwa Savage, we have Kate Henshaw, we have Funke Akindele, and I've forgotten his name. His name just escaped my mind. So yeah, Niniola, something like that. So yeah, these are some of the stories on
Nino. You mean Nino?
Nino, yeah.
Oh.
These are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Okay, so let's look at the Vanguard newspaper. Okay, crude oil theft poses for Navy. Their gunboats in shootout with Tompolo's men, boasting ship stealing crude oil. Illegal connections hits 4,800 military. You can find that story on page 33 and page 5. The trial of evangelist Emefiele, prosecution turns persecution. You can find that story on page 28. Tinubu needs petroleum minister. Falai speaks on how to manage inflation. You can find that story on page 22 of the Vanguard this morning. And then the writer there says citizens to Tinubu cut cost of governance. Nigerians suffering. You can find that story on page 10. Nigeria 2022-2023, what we told you. You can find that on page 12. Beware of fake Naira notes, CBN alerts Nigerians. We've just spoken about that. You can find the story on page 8. The good thing is, every time something comes out, all the front pages of the newspaper text it, so that way people get to believe that, okay, this story is actually real. Indeed. And then you need to watch out so you don't get scammed or duped. Okay, so why Tiwa Savage bombed internet with bikini photos. You can find out all the entertainment stories on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, and that's it for Vanguard.
All right, the Tribune carries from the top of the page as fake Naira notes in circulation. We have detained for 18 months for protesting the borrower's mother, Rhoda Jatao's relations, colleagues, and CSOs demand her release. You'll find this on page 25. Now, this is another story that has been a bit quiet. So it happens that there was a detention of someone, and then right now they're pushing that she is released, which I'm confused about the story, considering it was said that about a lot of, I thought it was the guys who made that situation. Right now we're having a Rhoda, a lady. So, I mean, if you want clarity on that story, you can find it on the Saturday Tribune. The major story says, war in Ondo over Akeredolu's signature. I have discovered forgery, Energy Commissioner said. Allegation is criminal and idiotic. That's according to the Information Commissioner. Below that, we have Kaduna bombing. 261 northern lawyers signed to fight for victims. Okay, that's another angle, another situation coming out there. We'll find this on page 4 of the newspaper. Ahead, Supreme Court of verdict. The police and other security agencies on red alert in Kano. CP warns the politicians. I mean, there's still tension in Kano State over the appeal court's judgment. You'll find this on page 3. Nigeria's debt stock was 87.37 trillion naira in September. That's according to DMO. NNPCL rejects Senate's move to jack up oil production benchmark. You find this on page 5. Now, these are some of the stories on the Saturday Tribune.
Okay, and then on the Guardian this morning, right there on top, leading ladies take movie. Sumaya, I love this even before I finish reading. So, leading ladies take movie battle to big screen. Now, they are talking about, you know, the beef between Funke Akindele and Twin Abraham at a time. I thought they actually made out like, you know, they are now friends. But then
this was just
the banter is like, oh, I'm going to make the best movie. And then they are both comedians kind of in their own way, you know. So it's actually good to see that they're actually taking whatever it is, you know, to the big screen to see who is going to do what.
Most times situations like this, it's not
this
them.
Is your
always
field, so yeah.
It's always the society, you know, putting the industry, putting these people against each other. I mean, when we're talking about, say, the music industry outside Nigeria, you'd see where people are always putting Nicki Minaj and Cardi B in that same narrative.
Even when they are not fighting, even when there's no beef until beef starts.
Yes.
You know, but don't you think sometimes they're actually making that, you know, just to, you know, give the internet
it
something?
Gets so bad to a point that we saw how it all pans out on that situation.
Because, you know,
they were cool before. Nikki was sending
cool.
shout outs to. They are not. They are on very bad
I think
terms
they've made
now.
out to Sumaya.
They haven't. Not okay. Toyin and Fuki have made up, but then
Cardi B and Nikki, I think I've made up. Maybe we need to go and check that story actually.
That's on.
So yeah, so that will be much later. Every woman should have knowledge of managing money effectively. Oladiwuro Oladepo. Sumaya, you know, there's always a woman saying something every Saturday about women, you know, trying to pass a message across. And I think when people actually go through the stories, they will learn one or two things, you know, because there is a story on that. So you can check that on page 13. And then the writer there says, Yuletide, Nigerians shelve traveling plans over insecurity transport fare. You can find that story on page 2. And it's really, you know, a cause to worry because people want to travel by road, people want to travel by air, you know, and then the cost is high. You're scared kidnappers would take you or your family or your loved ones. So people want to actually go and, you know, celebrate and, you know, catch up with their loved ones. It's time for union, you know, to reunite with your family. But then, you know, this whole insecurity situation,
it's really sad. I mean, people are not even, majority of people in Nigeria cannot afford, you know, the airplane, and there has been statistics and warning from the IATA saying that when it comes to transports, Nigeria, we're talking about Abuja and Lagos International Airport, charges the most expensive for local flights, which is ridiculous. I mean, local flights, I'm traveling from Lagos to Abuja, should not even be more than 50,000 if we're talking about Nigerian money. So it's now becoming too hard, too difficult for the middle class Nigerian to travel using you know, the plane, which at this point it's like
whichever one, because
it's like
the transportation is still high. You know, someone just came back and they were complaining. I just overheard, like, from Jos to Abuja alone is like close to 15,000 naira by road. So you can imagine how expensive that is. You know, I could actually send that to a loved one somewhere, and then, you know, maybe get something, you know, to support. So this one, you can find that story on page 2. Africa gets 1 trillion to support sustainable vaccine manufacturing. You can find that story on page 3. Bandits killed over 750 Nigerians in 2023 abducted 45 from schools, reports reveals. You can find that story on page 3. Sumaya, you know, just a couple of, I think on Thursday when I was working, I saw that your students were kidnapped again at the university, Nasarawa State University, when we are not done with the, you know, the whole Zamfara and other girls that were kidnapped or abducted from both secondary and, you know, universities and what have you. So, and then it keeps happening. What do you think about this whole thing?
It keeps happening because we know that, you know, the government are not doing enough on that part, because honestly this is something that keeps happening. There is that fear. Now the bandits are feeling so relaxed, you know, to keep expanding on what is happening. And allegedly there's a lot of mining happening in Nasarawa State, so there's been a lot
you think
like
that could
there's been
actually
a bit of alleged, you know, talk on social media platform, which I've come across, saying that you know, when there are maybe some discoveries of mineral resources on some certain places,
something always
then
happens
insecurity
in
starts. So there has been a bit of fear on maybe
so
the
it's like
discovery
it's like
of
a conflict between the citizens of the state and the government.
We have no idea on that. Allegedly,
yes.
No, allegedly,
no. But that's what I've seen people say. So, you know, like on social media. So
allegedly, you know, so there's that fear.
Yes. So 4,000 illegal connection exits in NNPCL's pipeline. Emily Kerry tells Senate. You can find that story on page 31. Then the forgery of Akeredolu's signature. You can find that story on page 31 also. And that's it for The Guardian this morning.
All right. I mean, that is the much that we can take on the front pages of the national daily. So you can, of course, go ahead and pick any of the national dailies to catch up on what is happening on different platforms, of course, in Nigeria in general. So with that, of course, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, it will be time to open the phone line to hear from you guys about something happening in our society that we need to find a quick solution to. So stay with us.
We started manufacturing leather since 1958. But the most important thing is that if the system is checked correctly, we won't have where we are now.
If somebody has depression, they may just be very irritable and unproductive in the office. So you find on average already about 1 in 4, 1 in 5 Nigerians already have a mental illness, a mental health condition that needs some form of attention.
No matter how good an economy is, if the federal government goes bust, believe me, everything in the economy is just a matter of time it will go bust. So first of all, about maybe slightly above, below 70% is in federal government securities.
If government has banned importation of fertilizer and the states are doing it at the level of governance, but I believe that production and distribution of fertilizer should be left to the private sector.
This is the general multi-purpose card, and it has a chip here. So this chip is about 80 kilobytes. The one that you get from the bank for ATM is just 4 kilobytes. So this is like 20 times.
Welcome back to Daybreak Extra on Trust Television, and right now we will be talking about the factors responsible for what is happening in the society these days, which is called the Japa syndrome in Nigeria.
Japa.
Now, this 2023, and yet the Japa syndrome is still trending in Nigeria like an emerging epidemic or pandemic rather. Now, pathetically, the Nigerian Japa situation is expanding. A recent survey from the Nigerian Social Cohesion Survey revealed that 7 out of 10 Nigerians are willing to relocate to other countries for various reasons, with a good number of them recording success. Fatima, you're among those 10, because it says 10 out of 7, so that means you're 1 out of 2 of us here.
Did I travel?
No, they said considering,
I have actually been considering that for a couple of years, but
See,
then I love Nigeria.
I knew there was something behind it. All right, so today there is still the increasing rate of an emerging urge to leave Nigeria by the old and the young, which is true. It has no age limit and all. So it was discovered that owing to bad governance, unemployment, unfavorable working conditions, insecurity in Nigeria, among other factors, the youth, professionals and skilled workers in Nigeria resort to seeking for greener pastures in foreign countries. But it also comes with consequences. Example of Canada saying that they have seen a larger number of immigrants coming into their country, of migration. So right now, they are upping the proof of fund money from $10,000 to $20,000. Yes, this is the money that you need to have in your account before you even travel, say, for example, for school purpose, because they want to make sure that you'll be able to take care of yourself when you get to the other side of the world. You're able to pay for your school fees. At least you need to have 1 year tuition fees. You need to have money for house rent for at least a year before you find a job. So now they are upping it to $20,000, which is another huge amount. And I'm sure they're trying to make it in a way that it would remove people's mind from coming to their country, but I don't think that is going to work.
But Nigerians are stubborn. They will still find a way to go, because I swear, there were stories, if you remember, I think a couple of months back, I think we spoke about, what's actually making Nigerians to leave the country when the whole situation started. And there were families that actually sold their properties, their lands, just to see that they, travel out to, see greener pasture and all, and then it didn't work. They were scammed.
Yeah.
So you can...
that works with the agent. I knew someone who explained that's
the
say
point
that you
always
need to just make your research yourself in order not to
fall
for the scamming.
But then sometimes, they look so real that you can't even differentiate the fake and the real, even in, when it comes to the agent as well. Someone could just come and convince you that he's an agent. He could show you, some work that he has done for people and what have you, and then you fall for it because it will look so real.
It's always safer if you have someone there, a sister, a brother, so you can easily relocate and stay there. But then, the fear now is back to our society, how this is affecting us. First of all, when you look at other countries, a lot of countries are trying to dissuade migrations, immigrants to come into their country. We also saw the British, and we're talking about the UK, taking also a bold step of trying to make sure that people are limiting in numbers when coming to their country. And one of the things that they say, or two things that they said that they always allow to come in is the caregivers. Yes, if you're coming for caregivers, they still need a lot of that, and the health workers. So that comes down to how a lot of health workers in our country are now leaving the country to other parts of the world where they are much needed, much paid, much respected, much honored, and then they have that a lot of the infrastructures, the things that they need in order to make their work easier. But then in Nigeria, earlier this week, we had a conversation about how this Japa syndrome is affecting our health sector. But then it's not only the health sector now, it's affecting almost every part of our lives. You go to places and then professionals now are leaving.
Because it doesn't really have to be health, because people, didn't you just say people traveling for school? So it's not just about health. People are just traveling because they want a better life. They want to, run away from the insecurities, the economic hardship. There are a whole lot of things that's making them to run. But then, you can still, make it here. if you
one of the things that's always scary about the making it here is the insecurity. There is always that fear. People are struggling to make it, you know. There are people that don't even,
but
they don't even want to travel.
In the whole world. There's always insecurity.
No, that is not an excuse. Our insecurity has
I
become
get
really bad. It has
okay,
become
so
really
now
bad.
just look at
whenever you're leaving
in
house
Hamas.
party, you're always scared of what could happen. So there is that
So the
fear.
point is everywhere, right? It's just that, you know, because we are
Our
living,
own is becoming too much.
It's because you are in the country. Other people in their own country are also feeling the same way. Do you get, like, they are feeling the same way that the situation, the insecurity situation, the kidnappings, the raping, the whatever situation in their countries are also bad as it's not as bad as other countries. That's how you see it. South Africans feel like their situation is worse also. So when you talk to some of them, they will tell you, oh, in South Africa, no, we are suffering. Because I have friends that say that and we're like, oh, wow. So what do you want us to say here, you know?
It's
but then
really sad.
It's everywhere at the end of the day.
We just need, you know, the government to do something when it comes to, you know, situations like that. So right now, we are going to open the phone line. You see the number on your screen. You can call us, send us messages on what you think is the reasons why in every about 10 Nigerians, 7 are already considering the fact that they want to leave the country. So what are the factors responsible for the Japa syndrome today, and how can we curb this urge of people wanting to
so Maya,
leave
where do you
the
want
country?
to Japa to if you have the chance?
Are we good? Funny enough,
you always look for my trouble of the career. So
I always want to go see the world, but not to stay in a place for the longest time. Yes, I would prefer to come back
actually
home.
would love to go to Ethiopia if I love Ethiopians. I don't know why.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we would like to hear from you why you think Nigerians leave the country to other countries, you know, to seek greener pastures, to make it big. And then, Sumaya, don't you think in the respect of people trying to make it is why some, you know, the documentary coming up about the kidney theft, even though there are people that actually willingly sell their own kidneys just because they want to make money?
No, it's definitely, everybody sells their kidney because they want to make money without knowing the repercussion. I mean, when I hear the stories, the one thing I always say is that if you want to even sell something valuable from your own body, then you should make sure you make nothing less than half a billion, you know, 500, something that would really change your life. But then here we are not advocating for that because it comes with a lot of health, you know, challenges, and there is that thing that it is illegal. So for you even selling your
any
kidney,
part of your organ,
you are supposed to be arrested for that. So it is really, really bad. And Trust TV made a documentary that will be aired. Today, later in the day, around 8 p.m. So make sure you stay and catch us on how the experts spoke about that.
Yeah, and you know, to educate yourself and, you know, to alert other people as well.
Yes.
And there's a whole lot to be learned, you know, to learn from our documentaries because they are very educative. Yeah, so
it's actually which won us a recognition, you know, from the Leah Award in Kaduna. So yes, help us celebrate with us as well on that one. So of course we would like to hear from you about what is happening. What are the factors responsible for the Japa syndrome? Even though we know some, but it could be that from your own angle there are some things that you have also heard. One of the things that people keep pushing is the working environment, you know, the working system, that it's not favoring them. Sometimes you work for as much as 5-10 years and you have nothing to show for it. But then when you go to other, say, developed countries, there is room for you to, even though you would definitely work, but then you will be able to save something. Which one thing will give kudos to Nigerians is that they are hard workers. A Nigerian can
anywhere they find
shift.
themselves.
Yes, and that's why these developed countries want Africans to even come and do this, the caregiving jobs for them and other jobs, because when it comes to work,
but then let's not forget, in as much as there's the advantage of it, there's always a disadvantage of that also.
Yes.
You know, because there are some people that actually traveled on in the name of trying to make it, and then they lost their lives, or, you know, some people were deported back because they went against the policy of the country, or, you know, their regulations and what have you. So yeah, you know, that you also have to consider that when you're traveling.
Speaking on deportation, the UK just signed, that's cleverly just signed a treaty with the Rwanda president, you know, the Rwanda government. And one of the treaties is that when the UK now finds you, perhaps you entered illegally to their country, or maybe they just don't want you there, then they can deport you easily and through Rwanda. So,
wow.
So if you don't want Rwanda or Hotel Rwanda, then you can find your way back home. So of course there are different there's that fear of deportation, and then you start asking yourself, where do I start from? I sold everything I have back home to go there, and then they're deporting you back to another country where you need to find your way back home again. And there is that fear. We saw Abike Daybreak, you know, in charge of the people in diaspora, also coming out to make videos, making comments on saying that we need to be extra careful when it comes to how we travel abroad without knowing the legal route or getting proof of fund or any of that. So it is really, really scary when it comes to that kind of situation. And people end up, you know, getting stuck in a country, and before you know it, you are in some kind of asylum, you're in some kind of tent, you know, asking for help, getting bits of food to eat, and you start wondering, how did I get here? So in order for you to even make sure that you're safe, at least here in Nigeria, one thing that blacks and Africans do is that there would always be a family member that can assist you. But when you travel out there, they don't really, you know, believe in that kind of situation. I mean, 18-year-old would be even sent out of her parents' house.
There will always be a family member that will assist you.
Exactly. It is the truth, though. There is someone that you can actually, someone would look at you and be like, hey, she needs something, take. But imagine leaving your own country, your own continent.
I don't want to laugh.
To another place out there. Who would help you?
Okay.
Who would? So that
I think
like
but then we are having
sad.
some messages coming in, but then we still want to hear from you. You can call us on the number showing on your screens. We'd really like to hear you tell us why you think Nigerians are leaving the country and what the government can do to, you know, help the situation. Because like Sumaya, we said, I think increasing salary, you know, handling the insecurity, and, you know, making a better education system for the younger generation to, you know, trust the system. I think that would, these three things, I think is the major thing that I think the government needs to look into, you know, the insecurity, health, education, and then increase salaries of workers so that it can be easy for everyone to access good, afford a good life at the end.
Indeed. The increasing of salaries, price control, or rather the minimum wage on people, even if they are not working in, and if as the civil servants, because sometimes people in other private sectors are also complaining about situations like that. So one thing that definitely would change, one of the things, the major thing, is the salaries and the wages. Minimum wage needs to be upped. A lot of people are working and it seems as though they're not working at all. So that is why people tend to push and do everything they can, go even in legal routes, just to get out of the country and put themselves in a really sad situation.
We have a caller. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Your name and location, please. Okay, we've lost that call.
I lost that call. Please go ahead, call the number on your screen, and you can send us messages via WhatsApp. That way we can hear from you. Don't forget, as you're sending your messages, you include your name and location so we can hear, we can get to know where you're sending that message from. And also, if you're calling us, please do stay away from your TV set or turn down the volume of your TV. That way we can get to hear from you. What is the factor affecting the DACA
Sumaya,
syndrome,
there's this network issue, even though it's not part of what we are discussing, that has been, you know, a huge it's frustrating Nigerians. I think it's like everywhere, because people that you try to reach out to, they will tell you, oh, I just called your number and it's not going. So I think that is also affecting some of the calls.
And businesses also.
Okay, so we have another caller.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning. Please reduce the volume of your TV.
Hello.
Please reduce the volume of your TV. We can hear you. So you need to talk to us via the phone, not through the TV. Are you with us? All right, it seems we lost that caller. Please do not call us and you want to hear yourself through the TV, please just talk to us by phone, because there's always a feedback. So it would get to the TV a bit late. So we need to hear from you. Just call us and talk to us about what is happening. How can we, how can the government help in order to stop this Japa syndrome? And a lot of government officials have come out to talk about the worries of how these things is affecting the country. Now, if you go to some hospitals, there are a large number of health workers missing. If you go to
places like Kano, like
exactly, and Lagos. So and there is that fear. One of the things we keep bragging about is the fact that we have a lot of labor, manpower, and right now the youth are living in large number. So if the only thing that we are very certain of is slipping right out of our finger, how do we solve all the situations? It's really scary and sad situation there. I mean, we hope that, of course, we're able to find situations in order to fix what is happening in our country.
Okay, we have another caller.
All right, we have a caller. Good morning.
Hello?
Yeah, good morning. Your name and location, please.
Yeah, my name is Dominic Pan. I'm speaking from Jos.
Okay, Dominic, thank you for joining us. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the government should be held responsible for Nigerians leaving the country to get greener pastures in other countries. The reason is that you can imagine the high cost of living in the country today. Most families cannot even afford a meal in a day, not to talk of 3 square meals. And to couple with the insecurity as well. And also the increase in tuition fees of tertiary institutions. The poor can no longer, the government is really encouraging families to send their children to school. But with the hike on tuition fees, how can now parents be able to send their wards to school? Not to talk of feeding the family. Now, the hike in the price of fuel has worsened everything. You can imagine people can no longer transport themselves to work, to their various offices. So I think the government should be responsible for the exit of people from this country to other countries.
So, Dominic, how do you think that the government needs to approach these situations?
Yeah, is to make the cost of living affordable in the country, to reduce the tuition fees of tertiary institutions so that the poor can send their wards to school.
Indeed.
You can imagine that in Canada, Nigerians that are rushing to go to Canada is because if you live in Canada, the school fees of your children is free. The government of Canada will they're responsible for the payment of your children's school fees. The cost of living there is relatively very low. So I think the government should do more to retain Nigerians in the country.
Thank you so much, Dominic, from Jos, the Plateau State capital, for that amazing contribution. I mean, there was a time I heard that where they say when you give birth to a child in Canada, then the government would come to the front of your house in one, city in Canada, and they would put a gift bag in front of your house, welcoming the child, and the child gets free education and all that. So that is one thing that people yearn for, people that would at least ease some burden of them. So there is that fear, and right now there are other policies that the governments are introducing that even people are even scared of even approaching it. We're talking about something like the student loan. There is that fear. Already they're calling billions on it, and people are wondering, it has not even started, and you're mentioning billions on that one. So people are already skeptical about taking the loan before it even comes, and Nigerians are saying, we don't think we really want this. So situations like this are things that keep making Nigerians super scared. The lack of transparency between the government and the people, and it's really scary. All right,
hello.
We have another caller. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, your name and location, please.
My name is Mohammed Kadir. I'm calling from Kano.
Okay, Mohammed, thank you for joining us from Kano. Go ahead.
Yes. The issue we are speaking about this Nigeria, they have turned away from the country because of the hardship of the country is too much. People are suffering every day by day. To have food to chop is very hard, and transportation. Just imagine now for transport now to travel to one place to another is very difficult. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mohammed from Kano, for that contribution. I mean, it's like because when the health workers that we had on the show on Daybreak came earlier this week, one of the things they pushed is that they said the government know what to do, but they're not doing it, because the health workers have given all their demands of what they need to the federal government, and there is always that fear of, okay, why are we not doing enough? And even
I think every sector has given the government the demand to what they actually want. Yeah, some may be carried out, some may take time, but that doesn't mean it won't be carried out. You know, I feel we shouldn't judge the government because they are just starting. You know, there are some things that they have to clear on their dexes that they came and met. They can't carry out other taxes just immediately yet.
All right, I would let me speak on behalf of what the people are saying right now. First of all, if you are telling people that you need to, which the president came out and say.
Okay, we have another caller. You can continue because it looks like you want to shake the
Good morning. Are you with us? Good morning. Okay, I think we lost that call.
We lost the call.
Are you still with us? All right, we lost that call. All right, so on behalf of the people, what they're saying is that the president, rather, there was one video that was trending earlier, I think last October or August, where the president was saying that he knows what Nigerians are going through, and then he's trying to work towards it, but then at this point there is nothing he can really do. We have to tolerate that. So when you come out to say that we should tolerate that, the pain of what is happening, we expect you to lead us on that tolerance. So right now, Nigerians are furious with the government because what they are seeing is not showing as though you are actually taking that. All right, we have another caller. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, your name and location, please. Please reduce the volume of your TV and talk to us via your phone. All right, I think we would have to let this caller go because we can hear ourselves and we're not hearing him. You cannot wait for our answers through your TV. You need to talk to us through your phone. That way we'll get to hear you on what is happening about the Japa syndrome. So as I was saying, one thing, when we keep seeing the budget that the federal governments are making, budgets of saying that the Senate need cars, budgets of saying that there was a large number of people that were taken to the COP28, which was not really needed. Budgets of maybe example of what happened in, we saw Kebbi State giving local, the chairmans about 3 billion for furniture, things like that. Lagos,
okay, we have another caller.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, your name and location, please.
Yeah, my name is Mustafa from local Zaria.
Okay, Al Mustafa from Zaria. Go ahead with your thoughts.
From local not Zaria.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay.
Okay.
Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, my contribution to this program.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, we have this kind of people as a leader in Nigeria. They are not leaders per se, they are rulers. They know the problem of the country, but to fix it has become somehow difficult for them. Not just difficult, but selfish desire make them not to fix all that things. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Al Mustafa.
So the issue regarding Nigerians leaving the country, also hardship per se, but the insecurity as well. The reason why some people are leaving this country because I know of somebody who's making any well in a bank, in fact, but he decided to gather 20 million and leave this country because of the trauma and not a neighbor go through when they kidnap his family. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. A really sad situation. Go ahead.
So that is the reason why he decided to see how to do his best to leave this country. Insecurity alone is something that is worrisome.
Indeed.
And look at the hardship, the total hardship. And their income is not increasing. I think that is my contribution.
Thank you so much, Al-Mustafa, with that, your thoughts, of course, on this matter. I mean, I saw someone making comments about this Japa syndrome, and the person said on social media that we are leaving our country without holding the leaders accountable. I mean, if you want things to change, then you need to work towards it. Now we're running from our own country. We don't also want to put in the work, but then we want to go to a developed country where people even died in order to make sure the country is better. I mean, we saw people like doing activism in order to push and hold their leaders accountable to make something better. But then we are not doing that. All right, we have another caller. All right, we lost that call. I mean, that is what is happening.
In front page of the Vanguard this morning, we just read out that the citizens to Tinubu that cut cost of governance Nigerians are suffering, So it's also because we still keep going back to the same thing that the government needs to look into the whole situation. Like I said, every country is facing hardship. Every country is facing hardship. Yeah, because we are living here, we could see our own situation as the worst or the baddest case. But then it's everywhere. So you have to stay back, to develop your own country.
You also need to be patriotic on your own part. All right, we have another caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, your name and location, please.
Please, it's Mohammed. I'm calling you back from Kano.
Okay, welcome back, Mohammed. Go ahead.
The reason why he's calling back is now this is the Christmas time to travel to one place to another. How people can travel for this year now? People cannot travel to one place to another for this Christmas because road is very expensive. We don't know how we do it because we need to travel.
It's really sad. I mean, we saw a lot of people coming out to make complaints about, what is happening. I mean, we're also getting your messages on, WhatsApp about the Japa syndrome and a lot of things happening. So,
this says is from Leonard from Nasarawa. It's that government policies are not in tandem with the reality of life today. Virtually nothing is working in this country. If given opportunity, myself, I will Japa. Okay.
I mean, thank you so much, Leonard. I mean, that is the same thing we keep complaining about. Every day, a Nigerian citizen is given a reason to leave the country, which is a really scary situation. We've had experts saying that even us leaving to that, another country is something that definitely will bring revenue to Nigeria, but still, we're losing our own hold on human resources.
We have another caller.
All right. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Your name and location, please.
I'm calling you from Lokoja, Kogi State.
Okay. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Mohammed.
Okay.
Mohammed from Lokoja.
Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah. Good morning once again.
Good morning.
The economic system and system of governance in Nigeria is even enough for one to think of leaving the country. But I don't think leaving the country is just the solution. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the citizens have to take responsible of some of those things that the leaders are doing, in the sense that if you want a responsive government, you must be a responsive citizen, in the sense that You don't take some peanuts from people and allow them to govern you. Do it the one, because politics is now investment of return, not allowing or putting yourself forward to the people to work for them or to give particular amenities to people. So oftentimes people just come into politics, they invest huge money, and at the end of the day, you expect them to do well. You don't expect them to do well. The system is so bad that everybody that is yearning to be something is thinking of how to invest money to become leader in Nigeria. Until we as the followers start saying no to whatever you think you're giving us, what is the ideology or what is the kind of system of leadership you think you want to come give to people? Because as a country, we don't have a philosophy of developmental ideology. The philosophy Nigeria has is a respect for leaders and respect for culture, and you prophesy whichever faith you so desire.
Sure.
But there is no any manifesto in our constitution that says Nigeria is supposed to be here at this particular age or at this particular era. So other countries have a developmental ideology that will work for 20 years, that no government will just come and start doing what they feel like. If tinubu leave today, another person come tomorrow, he will come with his own ideology. Even if it's bad for the people, he doesn't care, because the belief is coming in to put his own quota. But until we have a developmental ideology and a structure that says, no, we have to be here, either in terms of technology, in terms of human capital development, in terms of infrastructure, and this type of inventing something, we want to be here. And nobody will just come tomorrow and start giving a different era. So this is my own reason. So some of the reasons that is happening, that people are living in the country. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mohammed, for that amazing call from Lokoja, emphasizing on the fact that we need to hold our leaders accountable. It's not just us. You're also a citizen, so you need to give your own quota. We need to be that patriotism that we keep talking about. It starts from us. So it's not about running from when the heat gets, really hot. You run away from it and leave it. Then who are you leaving back home to fix it for you? So we all need to come and work together into fixing these situations, holding them accountable, and then you doing your own quota. And a typical example is, the Yuletide season, where someone would we all know that, since June there was fuel subsidy, but then all of a sudden the food price hike is increasing more because it is the festive season, and that is an individual thing. So if you as a person can think of doing that, how can you even look at the government and tell them they're not doing their own part? Well, when you as a citizen, you're not doing your own quota, for your own people. So it's really a sad situation. I mean, we have other messages here that of course we need to take a look at.
So this is coming from Galton Ilya from Bauchi. Nothing is working in Nigeria for the common man. Cost of living is just biting hard. No reward for hard working. Taxpayers' money is being used to bomb them. Nobody in Nigeria will tell you the price of any commodity in the market. Salaries are not being shifted to meet up with citizens' need. In fact, the system is not working. What makes the difference dying in the sea and staying in Nigeria and die like a slave? Okay, now Galton is saying a whole lot there, but then...
Thank you so much, Galton, for that message. This is a wake-up call for every citizen out here in Nigeria. We cannot keep running, leaving our country, because true to what the person that made that comment on social media said, it's that we need to fight for our own country, not to go to other people's. All right, we have another caller. All right, we lost that call, and of course, it's time to. I think we've come to the end of this segment here of hearing from you people. I mean, there is a lot of things happening, but we have to take a stop here. Now, assignment to every Nigerian in Nigeria, we need to find a way to also give back to our society. Let's think, Nigerians are quite smart, so let's think of a way to hold our governments more accountable, and also to do our quota in order to make sure that our country grow. That we will truly see that the strength or the fight of our heroes that passed, of course, will not go in vain. A really sad situation, what's happening in the country. We hope that we find possible solutions to all of what is happening. Now, we'll take a quick break. And of course, when we come back, it will be time to discuss about the 16 days activism against the gender-based violence against women and children, or the girl child. So stay with us.
Should I keep quiet? And then we kept saying, can't we teach these people basic business, not hustling? Teach our people entrepreneurship, not hustling. Go to China, Guangzhou, different districts. They can turn fair. Am I saying what you don't know?
So this about this thing.
Yeah, but this time around we are talking about appointment of ministers, where there is an express provision in the constitution as regards that.
Let's come to appointment. You know, it is the status of FCT that the constitution has made is too complicated for people to understand.
However, if you are to go backwards and do a kind of audit, you will be shocked to find that the resources so far expended on the SDGs far outstrips the achievements face to face.
Most of the time when you are involved, it's difficult for you to draw back and have a holistic view, because what? Sentiment would always come to play, because all of us would definitely, I had, like I told you yesterday, I was 100% convinced that you cannot say you are qualified without bringing any document.
So you are not just a professor theorizing, you grew up as a businessman. But it's noticeable you yourself really didn't go into radical politics. You stayed fairly within the conservative confines, if I may say so.
In practice, I wasn't participating. But in terms of the ideas,
in your heart, you
ideas, yes. And also when we discussed, I can point out some of the things that they didn't know. And I saw that going into political arena, I wasn't going to get the chance to raise my children the way I want, educationally, professionally, and so on. It's true that I can blame myself for not giving back to society or taking my time to improve society. I remain at improving myself, if you like. So I accept that. But look, you can't do everything. You can't do everything.
A dark trade is thriving here, in the heart of Mararaba, a bustling satellite town that stretches into Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory.
There is one business for town inside Abuja. They do kidney harvesting.
Abbas is one of at least 6 young men from Mararaba that have followed this dangerous path.
One of my friends called me and told me that there is one hospital that they used to sell kidney.
Selling organ is illegal, is unethical. The repercussions are many. One, on the donor himself.
Bai kamata ka kama yaro ko shi ne ya gaya maka yana so. Bai kamata ka dauki yaro ba shawaran iyaye. To yanzu da sun mutu za a yi zubar da gawawakin su kenan.
I don't want me to bury my son. I want them to bury me. But as this thing happened, they looking like just like
ordinary picture.
The investigation is yet to be concluded.
The motive for the donation was money. And when they get the money, and the money will not be able to solve their problems, they ended up with regret. Most of them developed psychological issues. Some of them even got into depression.
We started manufacturing leather since 1958. But the most important thing is that if the system is checked correctly, we won't have where we are now.
If somebody has depression, they may just be very irritable and unproductive in the office. So you find on average already about 1 in 4, 1 in 5 Nigerians already have a mental illness, a mental health condition that needs some form of attention.
No matter how good an economy is, if the federal government goes bust, believe me, everything in the economy is just a matter of time it will go bust. So first of all, about maybe slightly above, below 70% is in federal government securities.
If government has banned importation of fertilizer and states are doing it at the level of governance, but I believe that production and distribution of fertilizer should be left to the private sector.
This is the general multi-purpose card, and it has a chip here. So this chip is about 80 kilobytes. The one that you get from the bank for ATM is just 4 kilobytes. So this is like 20 times.
All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak Extra coming to you from our studios here in Abuja. And we are going to be, going into our discussion of the day. Elimination of violence against women is what we are looking at, because it's going to come to an end tomorrow. As we all know, it started on the 25th, and it's a 16-day campaign, which is going to end tomorrow as the Human Rights Day. And this is the moment that it provides opportunity to reflect on the progress and made in, to tackle the global surge of violence against women and girls in all its forms, as well as a call to action to redouble international efforts to eradicate such crimes. As one of the most relevant perceived human rights violations, gender-based violence comprises physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering, and can often have a lifetime, long life impact on survivors. And we have in the studio with us Hassana Maina. She's the Executive Director, Anti-Sexual Violence Lead Support Initiative. Thank you so much, Hassana, for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so quickly, this campaign started on the 25th and is going to end tomorrow. What would you say, is the motive for those that don't really know what the 16 days stands for?
So the 16 days of activism started to challenge violence against women and girls. It doesn't mean that we only challenge violence against women and girls for the 16 days.
Certainly.
But the United Nations feel that the violence against women and girls is a pandemic, or as they started to call it after the COVID-19 pandemic, a shadow pandemic. So because of that, from the 25th of November every year to the 10th of December, there's so many programs that has been done to create awareness, to talk to legislators and those in positions of power to make policies around sexual gender-based violence, around all forms of violence against women and girls. The importance of that day, of these days rather, is that the aim is to keep the world on a standstill, to really sit down and reflect within ourselves. Because if you look at cases of gender-based violence, they normally occur, within intimate spaces, within our homes, within our schools, places where people should feel safe. So I think basically it's for us to sit down and reflect on why, you know, why we have cases of this violence in our homes, you know, how can we challenge it, how can we think of creative ways, you know, to end this, so that, you know, we can just keep on having more safe spaces.
So what measures can communities take to raise awareness of gender-based violence, you know, in a cultural or insurance system?
So there are lots of measures that we can take. So like for us at Aswell Support Initiative, we normally go to schools, you know, to talk to students, because they're age-appropriate content and you know, messaging that you can give kids to know that, you know, sexual violence is not okay, to know that catcalling, you know, when people are walking by and you're like, hey, 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 you know, it's not okay, to know that verbal abuse is not okay, to know that, you know, even how we get on social media, you know, and then there's all of this online trolling and online violence against women and girls, to also say that all of this is not okay. So, you know, we go to schools. During the 16 days of activism, I think last Saturday, we were at an IDP camp, you know. We spoke to people there, you know, and basically just saying that we have to end this culture of shame and silence, because we found that it's a major attribute to the reasons why, you know, these issues continue, especially on sexual gender-based violence, because it's always considered shameful, so people don't want to speak up. So, you know, encouraging people to speak up, seeing how we can strengthen government institutions to, you know, respond to these cases, and also seeing how we can, you know, collaborate with individuals that are doing great work, individual organizations. I know the Dorothy Nzamenje's Foundation has a shelter, you know, where they keep people that have been sexually assaulted. We are also there on a courtesy visit, you know, where we made donations of toys to the kids that are at the shelter. So there's just so much that we can do, you know, to create awareness. There's so much, even right now as we're speaking on TV, you know, people would sit back and say, oh, what are these girls talking about? Violence is not okay. We must stop that. So there's just a lot of things, you know, through our messaging, through our songs. We also collaborated with the French Embassy, you know, sort of partnered with Sheikh Musa Redwa Foundation and supported by the French Embassy and Ford Foundation to, you know, use art as a medium to speak against gender-based violence, you know, and we had a competition and amazing people sent in, you know, their artwork, you know, their poems and spoken word, and, you know, we're able to get the best 3 out of that, you know, and we had an event, you know, and then they were celebrated and we gave them a cash prize. So, you know, using art to also say that gender-based violence is not okay, because sometimes if you look at the movies we watch, if you look at the music we hear, you know, it seems like violence against women is, you know, is encouraged through the song, you know, then I hit her, then I, you know, all of those things, you know, through rapping or music or whatever. So just saying that, you know, through our art and whatever we want to create, that this is not okay. So there's just a lot of things.
Okay,
I can do.
I'm happy you said school.
Let's talk about you know, quickly on the means of these 16 days. Each time we hear 16 days, we're like, how are we going to, what are we really advocating for? So what are the specific policies that this 16 days is advocating for, or any government legislative initiative that needs to be changed in order to tackle, you know, to combat these issues of gender-based violence against women and girls?
Thank you so much for the question. So whenever we talk about the 16 days of activism, first we have to recognize that it's a global thing, you know, not only specifically to Nigeria. But now let's bring it home. What can we do to ensure that violence against women and girls is stopped in Nigeria through policies? First things first is the 5 gender bills that is still on the table of legislators, you know, that has not moved anywhere. And my argument on that is we must ensure for women to stop experiencing gender-based violence, we must ensure that through our legislations, we push for the real meaning of the law. And what's the real meaning of the law? That every citizen is equal. So if every citizen is equal, it means the rights that a man has, I also should have it. There's something that will do to even our psyche, so that when next you go to report to a policeman, because the law has given me equal freedom and equal rights, the policeman would not say that this is normal, you know. Because at the end of the day, people make institutions, and we see it happen all the time. When you go to report cases to policemen, and then they're like, I bet this not a woman issue, this not, you know, they don't take it as seriously. And violence, assault, rape, these are criminal cases, but we don't get to see it like that. And then people say, okay, so what's the correlation between violence and maybe women saying, because if a man marries someone that is a non-Nigerian, he automatically transfers his citizenship rights to her. But if a woman marries a man that is non-Nigerian, that's not the case. And people are like, but what's the correlation? The correlation is that the law is saying that I am not an equal citizen to a man. And this is the 21st century. There's something very problematic with that. So how can we ensure, you know, and there are so many other bills, you know, talking about the 35%, you know, for women, because we need representation. How can we say, you know, women are full members of the society if we don't see them in leadership positions, if we don't see them making decisions, if we don't see them, you know, in decision making? Because if you look at even the figures, you know, they keep reducing, especially for our representatives, you know, and these are abysmal. We must do something about that. And so we can talk about the 5 gender bills, you know, these are policies that can be made. We can also talk about even how our laws are. Look at how the Violence Against Persons came to be. Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, that I was part of those people that, you know, pushed for domestication in some northern states in Nigeria. Some states have domesticated, some haven't. But look at the time that it took. The law passed in 2015. But because of the way our legal system is set up, each state has to domesticate this law. So after you've done the work to get the National Assembly to pass the law, then now you have to go back to state levels to now, you know, start to interact with state legislators to domesticate these laws.
But why should it be so? I mean,
that is how our system is set
up.
up.
The federal legislature should make the one law and then it's...
But that is how our constitution says our laws are, you know. And, you know, aside that, then you now have to start working on implementation. So before you know it, 10 years have passed, 20 years have passed,
nothing is,
you know, and then the work is very slow. You know, you're like every year in, year out, you know, you're working on either domestication or implementation of basic laws that says, you know, women are human beings too.
Okay, so I wanted to make reference to, you know, earlier when you said you go to schools, you know, to advocate for this violence against women and what have you. How do you think the system, especially how do you think schools can enhance, you know, to speak about respect, you know, equality, because that's what we keep fighting for all the time. How do you think they can enhance that in schools, you know, to start teaching the students that, okay, it's good to respect women, it's good to, it starts from somewhere, you know, so what do you think can be done?
I think it can be entrenched into our curriculum, but when we talk about schools, I think we can also look at it from the strata. So are we talking about primary school? Are we talking about secondary school? Are we talking about university? First, from primary school, I think this can be entrenched. We can, I know there's something called civic education that kids do in school now. We can begin to see how, you know, in the curriculum, in the module, that, you know, we're able to have more topics, you know, on respect, you know, on gaslighting is a no, you know, on kids are visual, kids are, you know, they hear, they see, they, you know, we can see how we can put all of that into our curriculum. Is it social studies? Is it mathematics? So whatever you're teaching kids, you know, you also tell them that violence against women and girls is not allowed, because sometimes they see these things in their house and it's normal. Then they come out to the world, you know, and then they see it also on the street and it's normal. So in the school, you know, we must tell them that this is not normal and there are consequences for it. Secondary school, same thing. But also I think we must have policies, you know. We must start to see how schools can embrace what I would like to call, you know, a school safety policy, you know, for girls. So, for instance, if, let's say, maybe a girl is walking on the street and, you know, a group of boys come to like gaslight her or make fun of her or, you know, hit her or whatever, the school must be able to take this thing seriously, you know, and there must be like clubs in those schools, you know, school clubs, you know, that would stand against this thing, so that, you know, we're not only telling kids that it's not okay, we're also raising them to become champions against these things. And I think that's what the world needs more of. Then in universities, we must ensure that we have student voices in, you know, decision making, like in the Senate, because sometimes that's school Senate, you know, because sometimes you go to tertiary institutions and then you have the student representative council, or in other schools the student union government, and the students don't even have so much power. you know. So you have lecturers being so strong and being the alpha and omega in those schools, and then that's when you start hearing traumatic cases of sex for grades, you know, and all of those other stories that, you know, so many people that have gone to our federal institutions, so many women that have gone to our federal institutions have so much to say, you know, and this shouldn't be so. So how can we ensure that the power imbalance in our institutions is not tilted to the side whereby lecturers have more power and they can do and undo, and students are such, you know, powerless, you know, and then, you know, they can just be done anything with. We see how that works in other institutions, like the one I went to in London, School of Oriental and African Studies. Students have a voice, you know, so students in Nigeria must be able to have voices as well, so that, you know, the power imbalance is not, because most of the time what we find about violence thriving in any place is basically because of a power imbalance. So we must always check, you know, where is the power? Are we giving this person so much power? And because with so much power comes impunity.
Indeed.
You know, I think I can do whatever and no one will do anything to me. And we see that happen all the time.
All right, so let's talk about the 16 days of activism and how we would say that in the years that it has been advocated, it has been celebrated in pushing towards the end of violence. Do you have any success story of that way people can be able to relate to say, okay, this is something important, we've worked towards this in order to achieve this, so from your own end?
I think the success story is even me sitting down here talking about violence against women and girls. Because sometimes when you talk about it, people want you to shush and hush. You know, we have this culture of shame and silence. But now people talk about it. Now people say, oh, but that is a woman beater. Oh, but this is wrong. But before, people just don't, you know, somebody can live a double life, you know, one as a woman beater, and you know, and another as, you know, a celebrated figure. But now we say no, like we even call out senators, you know. Recently, when the senator from Adamawa was sacked, people were like, how did he even get back? Is he not a woman beater? You know, now there's like so much consensus about what we would not accept as society. But also in terms of legislation, we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, you know, which has been the most celebrated. Because prior to that, you know, our laws did not really recognize even rape against men. It didn't really recognize, because the conversation on assault and sexual violence is very minimal in, you know, our legislations. But with the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, you know, you're able to have, you know, a hard-on law that says, no, this is not it, you know, there's compensation, there's monetary compensation, there are terms of imprisonment, you know, and all of that. So that is a step forward. You know, even in schools, you know, we're able to now start seeing students call for policies in their universities. I think there's one in the presence of National Assembly now on universities, you know, and
7 years jail term.
You know, for grades, lecturers and all of that. So now we are seeing, you know, real progress being made. And I think people are even scared because, you know, sometimes you even hear in conversations, and I think there's this song that's something like, before I'll see myself on Instablog or something. Now people know that this is not normal. People know that, you know, now people have voices and women have agency. And the more we keep on, I'm not saying it's perfect, you know, we're far, because if you look at the statistics, it's abysmal. You know, we're far from where we should be. But the fact that we're talking about it, I think it's great.
Okay, so, you know, earlier, remember last time, Sumaya, when we talked about the perpetrators of, you know, these acts, their faces are being covered, but when they are fraudsters, you know, their faces are being shown, and, you know, these are all criminal acts. What do you think can be done, you know, the legal system can strengthen or to ensure swift and effective justice for gender-based violence victims?
As a lawyer myself, I like to mention that because my family members seem to forget that I actually went to law school. So as a lawyer myself, I think there are so many things that we can do. First things first, we can have a separate court for sexual assault cases, for gender-based violence cases, because these cases occur all the time. And one of the reasons why we even have, in fact, even in the underreporting, the figures are abysmal. So imagine if people actually then do report, you know. So we must, and then one of the reasons why people don't even like reporting is because of, look at how our justice system takes years, you know, before justice is finally served, you know. So in that moment of taking years, you know, some women even end up getting killed in their matrimonial homes, you know. So many things happen, you know, people then grow up, and these are issues that require speedy trial, you know, because So imagine if my husband is assaulting me, you know, and then we have a kid together and I took him to court and this issue has not been decided up until 12 years after or 10 years after. And I had a kid that was 10 at the time. Now the kid is 22. So when the issue would finally be decided, maybe my child is about to get married. You get. So at the end of the day, how can we then ensure that these cases are, you know, have the speedy trial that they deserve? We must have separate court for that. We do have it for road offenses. Why can't we have it? You know,
that's a smart one. I mean, just like when you go to report these cases now in police stations, they have gender-based decks. So that's another way to
and I
look
mean,
at
sometimes people that go to the field really now start saying things like police would require like 500,000 for you to file. That doesn't make
it shouldn't be so.
It shouldn't be so. And we can have more sexual assault referral centers. It's unfortunate that even the ones that we have are getting closed down because you know, they are not being funded by the government. I know one in Sokoto that, you know, is being, the Nana Khadija Center is being closed down because the government is not funding it. That shouldn't be so. Like the one that we have, at least we should fund it and we should see how we can get more. So there are just so many ways that, you know,
we could help. All right, let's talk about the public contribution now quickly. What should the public do in terms of this silence culture and also the sympathy or stigmatization when the victim at that point, what they need is support, but then there is that stigmatization? How can the public help? Because everyone is a stakeholder when it comes to raising the girl child and the pain that women are going through.
I agree with you. Everyone has a stake, and that's the reason why we must speak out. Everybody can be an advocate, at least against this one thing. Because most of the time, when we talk about this thing, it's like, oh, but what if it's your sister? What if it's your mother? She must not be your sister or your mother or your aunt for you to empathize. You know, you should be able to empathize simply because that person is a human being too. And injustice to one person is injustice to all. You know, so once we begin to have that attitude towards it, you know, we'll be able to understand that this is not issue to be swept under the carpet. And I feel like we do understand on some level, because when you look at with the End SARS campaign, you know, when it was like boys being brutalized by the SARS and whatever, you know, people were able to empathize to that. But when women talk about being assaulted or raped, people want to have evidence. People want to have proof to rape. And I wonder what more could be the proof to rape than a woman choosing to defy shame, you know, to say this person has assaulted me. We must start to believe women, because at the end of the day, this is an under talked about topic, you know, and we must create safe spaces even within ourselves.
Exactly. You know, I wanted to actually, you know, where you always talk about the, you know, the harassments, or should I say abuses, are not just domestically being carried out, even in workplaces, it's being done, schools, like we always mention. What do you think, what are the strategies that you think can be put in place, you know, to adopt a safe environment, like you just mentioned, to, you know, actively discourage and address this gender-based violence in workspaces and other institutions?
So during my dissertation for my master's in law, we talked about, my dissertation was basically on how sexual violence is being used to expel women from the public space, you know. And for us to ensure that women feel safe in public spaces, so public space meaning the workplace, the market, you know, and everywhere. And think of all of those places that is public. You would always see that women are made to feel like they are not welcome by assault. So think of you in a marketplace, you know, with men trying to drag you to buy from them, you know, and then when you don't answer them, it's like profanity, you know, they would insult you, insult your virtue and whatever. Think of even in schools, you know, when you go to submit your dissertation and, you know, a lecturer is telling you, you know, if you don't do this, I'm going to fail you. You know, think of it even in workplaces where you have a well-deserved promotion and then your boss is saying, I'm not going to promote you because you're not doing what I want, you know, in ways that has nothing to do with your work. So there are just so many ways that, you know, women are being expelled from the public space, you know, using sexual violence. So sexual violence is actually a tool, you know, to ensure that women are not in the public space. So what can we do against it? What we can do against it is to name it, which we've done first. Once we name it, then we then find solutions to it. And solutions to it is policies. How can we ensure that people have voices? So let's say in a workplace, because that's your specific question. what can we do to ensure that, you know, sexual violence is not approved in workplaces, is also to look at the power imbalance. We come to this country and then we see a situation whereby your boss is like your God. That shouldn't be so. You know, you have a contractual relationship, you know, and then most of the time it's the KPI, you know, your performance is always based on what you've done. But what about your boss? You know, can't you also, like, you know, rate him, like how good is he as a boss, how good is he at delegating taxes, how good, you know. So like we must also see how we can revisit power, you know, the idea of power in workplaces, because there's, you know, when philosophers say absolute power corrupts absolutely, they're not wrong, you know. So we must look at that. We must have policies in workplace, like every workplace should ensure that, you know, it's sexual violence is a no-no, that workers feel safe to be able to say this person has violated me without the fear of getting into trouble, without the fear of even you being outed and saying, oh, this person said this, so before you know it, your colleagues are, you know, avoiding you. They'll be like, before I'll play with you now, and you'll say I've sexually violated you, because that's also one of the things that is being used to bring down the seriousness of this issue. So, you know, every employer must ensure that, you know, they have created a safe space to ensure that people are able to speak up. Employees are able to speak up.
So quickly,
I mean,
due
to time constraint, of course. I don't know if you have another question.
Oh yeah, I wanted to, you know, actually ask her quickly. You know, there are women that have come out to speak and they didn't get the justice they deserve. You know, because maybe they presented their cases and nothing has been done. Like you said, there's imbalance in the sector, or should I say the institution of the law-making, the decision-making and what have you. How do you think women can actually, you know, feel comfortable to come out more to say, okay, this is what's been done to me, and then their cases will be handled without it being delayed, like you always say? In your own experience, what do you think or what advice will you give women?
I cannot sit down and assure you that, you know, you would come out and speak and you would have support. And it's not only a Nigerian problem, it's a world problem. And that's why the Me Too movement started from America, you know, where these are powerful women, you know, that are actresses, that are millionaires in their own right, you know, calling out other powerful men that are billionaires and saying, you've assaulted me, you did this to me, you did that to me. And at the same time, people are still saying that they were lying up until the court, you know, was able to convict this man. So it's not just a Nigerian problem, and it's not just the poor people's problem, you know. And that's why I say it takes all of us, you know, to change the narrative. It takes all of us to do the work. So how we can ensure that women feel safe, you know, like I have kept on reiterating, is to ensure that we create safe spaces, is to ensure that through our budgeting, like now we're submitting 2024 budget, and I think I saw Anambra street lights on the budget of the Women Affairs. They want to make street light in Anambra, which is good. You know, we need to ensure that there are street lights so that women feel safe, you know,
to walk by on the street.
And to walk by on the street. Great initiative. But how then can we ensure that, you know, ministries like the Women Affairs take sexual assault referral centers seriously? Ministries like the Women Affairs, you know, take the work of ensuring that, you know, legislations are passed and, you know, followed by in the state seriously. How then can we look? So, like, you know, all of these things can now have to link to the, you know, creating safe spaces for women. We must not do projects just because, you know, we're trying to look for ways to siphon money and all. So even in our budgeting, you know, we must be seen to be a women-friendly or gender-friendly country, you know, and we can do that. Canada has done that. You see any policy coming from Canada and you're like, you know, thumbs up, like these people know what we're talking about, these people know what the women are saying.
Well, at the end of the day, we hope that this 16 days is able to, you know, at least move these things
and change
forward.
Something.
Exactly. Change is all we need, and the voices of the girl child and women in general need to be heard. Well, thank you so much, Hassana Maina, for joining us.
So much
Executive Director, Anti-Sexual Violence Lead Support Initiative. We appreciate
your time.
having
me. Thank you so much. It's been a fun conversation.
Indeed. All right. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, of course, we'll take quickly a look at what's happening in the entertainment industry. So stay with us.
This is Africa Update on Trust TV. I am Ayuba. Thanks for joining.
Rise of Africa, stand and make sure that our people understand. And the story of the OAU can be told and retold. It cannot be denied that it made a contribution to the process of decolonization of the continent in many ways.
Ethiopia is where it is today in no small part because of the tireless efforts of the African Union and the wisdom of its deeply held belief in the principle of African solution to African problems.
The bulk of African countries were under colonial rule in 1945. So they did not take part in the negotiations that established the Bretton Woods institutions.
But the African continent is not included in the South-South relations. And therefore our objective is to ensure that the Africa Free Trade Agreement is actually implemented. And the BRICS countries, all of them are trading with Africa.
And we know that there are resources in Sudan, especially in Darfur. And that is why Darfur has been on the front burner for a long time.
So Cameroonians are anxious, Cameroonians are impatient, Cameroonians are like, oh, many of the guys are not talking today. You can read it all over the social media.
Egypt has officially declined to accept fleeing Palestinians for fear that the more Palestinians you accept across the border into Egypt, the more trouble there may be for the country in the nearest and farthest future.
Welcome back to what is trending on Daybreak on Trust Television. And right now, quickly, we'll start by taking a look at what Chloe, the BB Naija ex-housemate, said about women and hair. She came out and made an interview where she said that women cannot carry their natural hair to important places. And even if you you carry your natural hair to an event, then she would feel really offended. And then a guy, a media personality, came out to tell her, to debunk that narrative. This person is Omojua, who tackles her, saying that the contradiction of most social media system in Nigeria is those who should be making these rules are too classy, too busy, and too rich to care. So we are left with those who pronounce natural hair as natural air and heels as eels. He basically threw shades at her to make rules, saying that this is all for pressure by fellow rat racers. So there was a lot of shade in that matter.
Well, it depends on what they are comfortable in. There are women that feel comfortable, to go to events, occasions with their natural hair.
Indeed.
You can make it beautifully. It doesn't really have to be. You have to have an artificial hair or something. But then natural hair gives you this natural look. You could have a heavy makeup and still have your natural hair and still look pretty and classy.
She made mention of places you can go with natural hair.
Men actually like women that carry their own waist looking natural than
Indeed. A really sad situation there. When it comes to the fact that a woman is telling a woman what she can wear and where she can go with it.
You're making women to feel uncomfortable about themselves.
And hair are quite expensive these days.
Abuse, like I always say, it's not just about physical and words. Even with words, you can abuse people with words.
All right, let's talk about rapper Oladips. Now, Oladips came out, there was a controversy about someone posting on his status that he's dead, and then he had an interview recently where he was explaining exactly what happened, and he said that he passed out and someone called him and they thought he wasn't breathing, and then they called his mom, and his mom said, please, I don't want a Mohbad case again, bring my son to me. So they had to do spiritual processes before he's awake. And then he is saying that he's angry with the person who even posted that situation, but Nigerians don't even really believe him.
Well, I feel like when some situations like this happen and the person in the picture comes out to say, oh no, this didn't happen, well, you have no choice than to believe, because this is the person that is actually speaking, and it could be their truth, even though, because if it's actually he wanted more publicity, or he wanted to sell his album like they were claiming, he wouldn't have granted the interview. Maybe he would have gone quiet, to say, oh, okay, yeah,
So quickly, there is this one I want to talk about, which is really important also. It's about what has been trending. So Blessing CEO, the controversial lady, yes, she came out to make a video and said the thing about what do women bring to the table needs to be stopped in 2024 because men are becoming lazy. God created them to provide and protect. So if now you keep saying that a woman needs to do all, she made reference of what used to happen in the olden days, that our parents didn't used to do anything. You know, forefathers, it was the men doing everything. So right now, men are getting more lazy, demanding what women bring to the table.
I saw a video, you know, yesterday that I bumped into a man actually saying men should stop asking women what they are bringing to the table. What are you bringing to the table?
Indeed.
Because, you know, there are a lot of women that are actually doing a whole lot than other men. So you're asking that question of what are you bringing to the table I'm still yet to understand what it really
where
means.
it started from.
Yeah, because I don't get it. We are all supporting each other one way or the other, you know, to make sure that our lives are better as partners. So
Indeed,
I
so
don't
you
think there's a
shouldn't feel
reason why you
entitled.
should feel I must bring something to the table.
Yes.
And except that happens, then I'm not doing
It's making
anything.
the men lazy, and then the women most times are left with the responsibility of taking care of the children and also the man. I mean, we have personal stories of people close to us, you know, experiencing situations like that, which is really sad. So please, let's, for the first time, Nigerians are with Blessing CEO. So let's throw that away. Of course, due to time constraint, this is the much story that we can bring you from what is trending in the entertainment industry, okay? And then right now, of course, we've come to the end of the show, Daybreak Extra on Trust Television. We hope that you pick a thing or two from today's show, which was filled with packed, you know, educative, entertaining, and of course informative program. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely weekend.
And I am Fatima Musa, but then do hold on for our weekend sports with Adeni Ajishafi.